So I'd like to pick up where I left off from the last tutorial. What I have here is a new project, and I've imported a number of different photos, and you can see they're still photos from a digital camera. I also had corrected one or adjusted it in Photoshop so that it fits a little better into the size of my sequence, and then also I had imported one that had multiple layers in it. So you've got to, if you're practicing along, really all you need to practice with this is some kind of video or still photo, and then you can try out what I'm showing you here. And I have covered this in one of those fast track tutorials, but I'm going to go into a little more detail here. So what I have, let me open up an image from my sequence here. Let me just open this one up. So I'll double click on it. So I have, if you want to practice this, drag something into your sequence and then double click on it. So that's the steps that you want to start with. Now, what am I doing here? Well, this is going to be about keyframes. And what can you do with keyframes? Well, you can apply a keyframe to pretty much anything you want inside of Premiere. For example, if you wanted to do a slow zoom on this barn and also have it move a little bit more into the center of the screen, that would be a keyframe. Or let's say you wanted to have the image, the video, change gradually from colorful to black and white. You can apply a keyframe to an effect like that. So if you were going to make your image, your video black and white, you can have anything happen from point A to point B. You can put in multiple keyframes. You could have it change from color to black and white 10 times in a video clip with keyframes. So that's what they are. Hopefully that's clear enough. You see it all the time. You just may not know that that's how they do it. It's done with simple animation with keyframes. And the way I'm going to do the next couple tutorials is basically I'm going to give you my tutorials, and then I will also start posting some links to outside resources, because I did want to give you some more resources, outside of what I create, because there's only so many videos I can get up for you. So I'll give you more on these topics. Now, if I had to pick three, sorry I'm talking so much here, but I wanted to mention this really quickly before I get started. If I had to pick three main things I want to cover over the next couple weeks, that would kind of round out your Premiere knowledge. Keyframes is going to be one thing you want to focus on. Compositing is going to be another. That's going to be like blending two clips together, maybe dropping out a background. And then also filters and effects, like if you wanted to adjust the brightness, the contrast, change it to black and white, anything that affects the visual appearance of the clip. So those are some of the main things that we want to cover. So to show you this here, and this is another thing that's fairly simple in Premiere. Again, I double clicked on my clip here. I'm going to open up the effect controls. So once it's open, go to the effect controls, and you're going to have a couple different things here where you can begin to adjust what is happening in the photo, in the clip, over a set period of time, point A to point B. So let's do the slow zoom, and then let's pan so that it comes more into the center of the screen, both at the same time. So let me expand right here. You can see there's motion. You can see all of these different options here: position, scale, rotation. You've got opacity right here, which we can also do that. Time remapping. A lot of different things that you can check out. So let's go ahead and do let's do the scale first. What you want to do is click on this little stopwatch to toggle the animation. Okay, so that turns on the animation. Now, this gives you some more options. If you see where my mouse is, this little triangle here, it actually gives you more of a timeline. What you want to do actually is use this timeline here. So I'm going to drag this over so you can see it a little bit better right here. And then this is basically your clip. If you move this to the end, you can see that's the very end of that. You can see it move right here. So this playhead right here, where my mouse is linked to this one. Easy enough, right? Okay, so what you want to do is go ahead and put in a keyframe where you want this to change. In this example, I want it to begin zooming in at the very beginning of the clip. So I would move my playhead back to the beginning, and I'm going to look for this little button right here, Add Remove Keyframe. Okay, so circling it with my mouse. I know this could be a little bit hard to see. If I tilde and zoom in, you might be able to see it a little better. No, not really. I'll leave it right there. Add Remove Keyframe. Right at the beginning, just click it one time. If you click it again, it removes it. Alright, now let's move this to the very end. Let's say that over the course of the entire clip, we just want it to zoom in. If you get a black screen or you get the next clip, just click the left arrow key one time to go back to the last frame of that video. Okay, and let's click the keyframe one more time, and let's go ahead and double it in size. Well, maybe not. Yeah, double would be fine, just like that. Okay, now let's go ahead and play it. Okay, so I'll just check it out here, and you can see it has a nice slow zoom. It might be a little jumpy just because it's being recorded from this Camtasia program that I use. Also, remember, if you're using a computer that is a year or two old, not the very fastest computer, you need to close all your other programs. I'm using an iMac that has 16 gigs of RAM, and it struggles sometimes with Final Cut Pro, with Premiere. Sorry, I said Final Cut Pro because I taught that for 10 years, but it does struggle sometimes keeping up with the video. You can also control the playback setting as well for the quality of the video. Right here, you can just drop this down. I could do half quality, and then it might play a little bit smoother for me. So anyway, that gives me a slow zoom. Now let's say at the exact same time that is zooming in, I also want it to kind of center more in the screen. You can see that it zooms in sort of in a fairly odd location there. So let's minimize scale, and let's go ahead and use position. Okay, so we'll do the position right here. Don't forget, toggle the animation with this little stopwatch right here. Expand it if you want. Alright, and then we'll go ahead and use the keyframe for this one. I have to drag this over so you can see it a little better. There we go. And you can see there's the position keyframe. So once you get used to where all of these little buttons are, it's very simple. So I'll go ahead and add the keyframe. If it's not already added, move to the end. Okay, again, step back one if you get that black screen, or you get the next frame. Step back one to go to the very last. Keyframe again. And for this one, let's just take this and drag it. So you can see I put my mouse right on that first coordinate, which is your X coordinate, shows you the position of your shot. And I'll just drag this right there so that it kind of centers, or maybe off to the right a little bit, so you can really see the movement. Now let's watch this. So you can see that it looks like what you see on a documentary. They just take still photos like this and they add keyframes. Let's do rotation. So rotation works the same way. Let me minimize position. Let me go to rotation, stopwatch, toggle animation. I've got the same thing. It looks like it automatically added a keyframe for me there. Get rid of that. Go back here, and rotation really would not work very well here, but I'll just show you how it works, or what it looks like. Okay, so let's go right to the end. Rotation, another keyframe, and then we'll do just a very, very small rotation so you don't get too dizzy. And then here's what it looks like. And you do see that a lot. You see a lot of, that's maybe a little bit too much rotation, but you see really subtle rotations in all of these documentaries. And that's really about all they do. They do a lot of blending, a lot of opacity changes, and a lot of cross dissolve transitions along with keyframes. And then you've got a good foundation for your B-roll type of footage when someone's talking on these documentaries. So all of this right here, this is a good start for you to begin using your keyframes. There are other ways to do keyframes in Premiere. I'm just picking what is the way that most people use it, and probably what would be the easiest way. And let me show you just a few other things here as well. If you want to go back to any of these keyframes, my advice would be to use these little arrows. Go to next, go to previous. There are shortcuts for all of this stuff too, but basically just click this and that'll take you to the keyframe, because sometimes it's hard to get your playhead to snap right to it. So if I say, well, this keyframe's not right, I would just use my arrows to go to it, and then I'd click the keyframe again to remove it, and that would remove it. Let me undo that. You can put as many of these keyframes as you want. So if you wanted to zoom in and out a couple times, not that you would ever do that, but you can apply that as many keyframes as you want. So I could click here, keyframe. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm on the position. Let me use the scale. So there's scale, and I could zoom it way in. I could go here, another keyframe, zoom it way out. Notice what happens when you zoom it out. You get that Superman 2 effect, where those characters were flying in on those through space in those 2D squares. Underrated movie, actually. Okay, now let me go back to my Photoshop file. So I'll go back to my project keyframes, And let me go to my bin here that's called tree layers. And let's say we want to do a really simple little animation here where I've got the sky, maybe zooming in a little bit, and then the tree comes into the picture as well. So here's what you would do to accomplish something like that. I would drag this in here to my timeline, and I'll drag the tree on top of it. Let me zoom in so you can see this a little better. So here's what I'm working on right here, and that's what it looks like. Okay, so let's take this first one here. This would be the sky that's underneath it. I'll double click on the sky. We go to Effect Controls again, Motion, and let's go back to the beginning right there. Let's do a scale. So this one's going to do a slow zoom. Okay, so we add our keyframe, zoom in like that. This will make you dizzy. Again, it's not going to look very good. It's just kind of showing you what you can do with it. Okay, so there's what it looks like. The sky is moving kind of behind that tree. And now let's have the tree maybe slide across the screen and fade out. Okay, so I've got the tree open right there, so I double clicked it. So remember, probably most important thing for you to do is don't forget to double click from your timeline. So I'll double click that right there, go to Motion, and let's do a keyframe with this tree here. We'll do Position Keyframe, so toggle that on, go to the end again, toggle that. Okay, we're just going to have that scale a little bit, just like that. And then let's also have it zoom in. So we'll do, I'm sorry, I just said scale, but that was actually just panning, just moving the tree, animating the tree to the left right there. I'll bring this one in. Same thing that I'm doing basically. Just give it a little zoom. This will probably look really weird. Okay, but that's what happens. So I've got those two different elements, and they are moving with keyframes, so you can create those types of effects. So this hopefully will give you a really good solid foundation for using keyframes here within Premiere. Now, let me show you one more thing with opacity. Let's add a couple of photos here onto the timeline. So I'll go back. Let me go back to my still photos. Let me just add this one right here. Okay, and again, this one's going to be really large because it's directly off of a digital camera, so I can scale that down a little bit. And let's add another one that's maybe totally different right above it. Okay, let's just add a picture of the script right here, right above it. Okay, now you've maybe used cross dissolve transitions to get a blending effect. Well, here's the most basic form of compositing that you can do, and that is to adjust the opacity of your clips. And compositing is when you overlay clips, so if you have one or two or three on top of each other, and then you apply an effect to the clip on top of the other one, and allows you to see through that clip. So that's what we're doing here. So I'll double click on the top one, and you can see that gives me the script right there, and I'll go to the Effects Controls, Opacity, and then drop the opacity down, and then I'll check this out. You can see that it shows me the script right over top of the other one. Now, there are many complicated things you can do with compositing. For example, dropping out a color or background, and to do that you're going to use a key effect. You're going to key out a color, and I'll cover that in a later video, but I wanted to just show you a basic compositing if you wanted to try out and get started with that, and that would be to start to stack your clips on multiple layers and then control the opacity of the different clips, and you can start having a blending effect. Then you could apply some motion to that. So if I double clicked again, make sure I'm on this Carmen Gia script right here, and then if I wanted to add a little bit of motion to it, or I could change the opacity over time with a keyframe, but that would be very similar to a transition. But if I went ahead and did the scale with this, if I added a scale right here, and let's say I just want to kind of zoom that out, to create that kind of effect right there. And then maybe I'll go ahead and add the opacity as well. Okay, so I've got the opacity. Let's say at the opacity we will change to 100% right at the end, or close to it. This might be kind of a cool effect. So if I watch this video now, you can see that the script slowly zooms out and then fades in like that. And that's all just done with keyframes. Add a little bit of rotation to it, and you get a really nice little professional look. So those are some different things that you can try, and let me know if you get stuck on anything. The time remapping, allows you to control the speed of your clip at a certain part. So if you wanted it to like run fast and then slow down all in the same clip, that allows you to do that. I'm not going to cover that right now because it would take a lot longer, and I'll mention it. I'll do a tutorial later probably that mentions it, but the way I learned it, I typed in time remapping in a Google search and I found a video on it. It took like 5 minutes. There's not much to it. So that's the way a lot of this is. It's not particularly complicated, learning how to use all of this, but it's very difficult to create something that's, really quality professional work. That's what you end up spending your time on and your shots. So, but that's just showing you, one thing that you can do right there. So that's about all I can think of for this video. Should give you, a good start again with your keyframes. And I'm working on the effect controls right here. The next couple tutorials, I'll talk more about compositing, and I'll talk about the effects in this tab. If you look, you've probably looked at it already. You're certainly welcome to work ahead, but if you go to effects right here and you check out, there's a keying right there that allows you to key out certain areas of your image. There's, stylize, has some of the glow, the emboss effects. That's all stuff that we'll look at in a future tutorial. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on keyframes and basic compositing with your opacity. Let me know if you have any questions.